We've done some nice work with adding integers. Now it's time to subtract integers. Subtracting integers as we move through this lesson can become kind of tricky. Let me show you a trick we can use in these problems. We know that 9 minus 5 is 4. But isn't it also true that 9 plus the opposite of 5? Different signs, subtract, take the sign of the larger number. 9 minus 5 and 9 plus the opposite of 5 give the exact same number. Let's try that again. We know that 8 minus 2 is 6. But it's also true that 8 plus the opposite of 2 is 6. Because 8 and negative 2 have different signs, so we subtract them and we keep the sign of the larger number. When we subtract, that's the same as adding the first number to the opposite of the second number. Subtraction is the same as adding the first number to the opposite of the second number. Let's say that rule again. When we subtract two numbers, we add the first number to the opposite of the second. Let's try that rule out on 3 subtraction problems. Now, some of you are great with integers and you can do these in your head. Can you get the answer for 8 minus 2, 3 minus 7, negative 7 minus 1? Now, as the problems become more complex, using this rule rather than doing it in your head might help. Let's try number 1. 8 minus 2. When we subtract two numbers, we change it to addition. We add the first number to the opposite of the second number. Instead of 2, negative 2. 8 subtract 2 is the same as 8 plus the opposite of 2. Now I've got a positive and a negative, so I subtract them and take the sign off the larger number. Well, now that seems like a lot of work to show that 8 minus 2 is 6. But again, as the problems have more negatives in them, this rule will become more and more handy. Let's try number 2. 3 subtract 7. When we subtract two numbers, we add the first number to the opposite of the second number. 3 minus 7 is 3 plus the opposite of 7. Now we're adding with different signs, so we subtract and take the sign off the larger number. Do you know in your head what negative 7 minus 1 is? Let's try it using this rule. When we subtract, we add the first number to the opposite of the second number. The opposite of 1 is negative 1. Negative 7 minus 1 becomes negative 7 plus the opposite of 1. Now we're adding, and the signs are the same. When the signs are the same, we add and keep the sign. See how these keep getting a little more complex as we go? I can do 5 minus 11 in my head. Can I do 8 minus negative 5 in my head? Maybe. Let's try using our rule. When we see subtraction, we change it to addition of the first number and the opposite of the second number. Now when we add, if we have a positive and a negative, we actually subtract and take the sign off the larger number. Let's try number 5. When we subtract, we change it to addition of the first number and the opposite of the second number. The second number was a 6, so we'll use negative 6. Now we're adding, and if the signs are the same, we add and keep the sign. Number 6 is strange looking, but let's use our rule exactly. When we try to subtract, we add the first number and the opposite of the second number. Well, the opposite of a -5 is a +5. Now 8 plus 5 is 13. You may have heard the phrase, 2 negatives make a positive. There's one example where that absolutely happens. Here's 3 more examples. Now, if at any time you'd like to pause the video and try these 3, and then start the video back up, and you can check your answers as we work them. Here comes number 7. When we see subtraction, we change it to addition of the first number and the opposite of the second number. We have good addition rules. When you add and they both have the same sign, you add and you keep the sign. -1 minus 13 is -14. For number 4, I see subtraction. I change it to addition of the first number and the opposite of the second number. The second number is -3. The opposite of -3 is +3. 4 plus 3 is 7. So 4 minus -3 is 7. Number 9's got a whole bunch of negatives in it. Let's be careful. It's subtraction. We change it to addition of the first number and the opposite of the second number. The opposite of a -2 is a +2. Now I've got a negative and a positive, so I subtract and take the sign off the larger number. Feel free to pause the video here and try these 3, and then start the video back up and check them as I work them. In number 10, I see subtraction, so I change it to addition of the first number and the opposite of the second number. The opposite of +8 is -8. Now I've got a positive and a negative, so I subtract them, take the sign off the larger number. For number 11, change subtraction to addition of the first number and the opposite of the second number. The opposite of a -7 is a +7. Now I've got different signs, so subtract and take the sign of the larger number. Last example, subtraction becomes addition of the first number and the opposite of the second number. The opposite of a -9 is a +9. And 8 plus 9, that's 17. All right, your turn to practice. Go work some homework problems. I'll see you later on today.